Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guests today are Emily Paxman and Coby Vail. They are running the 10 Things For campaign. It answers the question of what do you actually do to help? Emily, Coby, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're excited to have you, too. Emily, tell us what 10 Things For campaign is really about.
Really, it's about empowering individuals who want to make a difference. People want to help, they just don't necessarily know how, or they see things out there that don't necessarily fit their time and budget constraints. So we just want to provide opportunities to really help people make a difference.
That's terrific. Coby, how did you get involved with this?
I've traveled a lot around the world and had the opportunity to participate in a lot of different nonprofit groups, and Emily kind of approached me with this idea, and I thought it was a great idea, and I'm also committed to providing opportunities for people to make a difference and to empower others.
Emily, why don't you give us an example or two of the kinds of things that you champion? Give us a sense of where does let's take a step back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Instead of talking about what you recommend people do, tell us about why you call it the 10 Things For campaign.
So we believe that for any social issue, whether it's poverty, homelessness, hunger, refugee issues, you see big things like, donate money to this charity and they'll be able to help. And then, like I mentioned, that's not always necessarily something people are able to do. And so by expanding this to here are 10 things you can do, we're able to provide a range of different things. For example, we did a literacy campaign a few months ago, and one of the things we did was go outside and read a book where people can see you, so that children see that, oh, that role model, that important person in my life reads, and that's cool. And there were various other things, of course, but we want to do things from the very, very simple up to the here's how you can donate to good organizations.
I think that's brilliant. And Coby, give us some more examples, if you would, of some of the things that you've recommended people do for some of the causes that you've supported.
Yeah, so one of the last causes that we did was with refugees. And so we pointed, we talked to activists that are working on these issues to get ideas of things that people could do, and so some of them pointed people in the direction of causes and nonprofit organizations that they could donate to. Others, for example, those living in Germany or other places in Europe, there were organizations that were volunteering with refugees to provide food or housing, and just sort of connecting people to those sort of options.
It sounds like great examples of very specific, actionable things that people can do. Can you give us a preview of your next cause, Emily? Are you allowed to tell me what your next one will be?
Yes, I can. So right now we just barely kicked off our homelessness campaign. So the first of our 10 things was posted yesterday, and in a couple hours here, the second thing will be posted, and so on. Also, over the weekend.
What was your first thing to do?
The first thing to do was just knowing where your local homeless shelter is. So we provided the link to the National Registry of Homeless Shelters. You can type in your zip code, find out where it is. That way you're able to take advantage of volunteer opportunities, know where to bring donations, and refer people who may be in need.
Now that's great. Can you tell us what the new one will be today?
The one today, if I'm remembering correctly, we would kind of start with the small ones and get bigger. I think today's is when you go to hotels, you have all those little soaps and things like that. If you take those with you, homeless shelters put those into survival kits that they can hand out. So, you're already in the hotel, you're not paying extra for that, so go ahead and take some of that and donate it to people who could really use it.
Oh, that's a great idea, isn't it? I really appreciate you sharing that tip. I think you're tapping into a real and practical desire that people have to do some good, and so often they just don't know what to do, don't know how to do it. Coby, what kind of results are you seeing as a result of your efforts?
Yeah, so I mean, there's the easy things like people are engaging with us on social media and showing that they've done it. One of the ideas that we've come up with is that we're putting into place is sort of a 11th thing where people are gonna, write back to us and say, oh, these are the things that we did that we've been inspired by. Um, and so, we're asking people to contact us and tell us what they did in addition to those 10 things.
I think that's great. I think those are great. I think it'll be a lot of fun to find out what people are actually doing as a result of your good work. So, Emily, how did you first come up with this idea?
So I subscribe to the daily digest that Foreign Policy magazine provides in your email inbox. And after several weeks of waking up to headlines that were saying, conditions in Syrian refugee camps are quote unquote deplorable and things like that, I remember waking up and reading those and just thinking, I need to do something. What is it that I can do? And I felt kind of hopeless for a moment. When I lived abroad, I got the chance to work directly with refugees, but here in Utah, I'm not directly connected to that anymore in such a big way. And I thought, there's surely got to be something I can do. And I know friends and family members who are always asking me, what can I do to help the situation over there? And so I thought, we need to find ways to help, and we need to make those things accessible to people. So really, it was born of my own personal anger and frustration at not being able to do anything.
I get that. I think there is. I think we all feel frustrated at times that there isn't more we can do, and so by identifying 10 things, you give people an option that there's got to be at least one thing you can do to make a difference. I have
Exactly.
I have a Facebook friend here in Utah who, in a fit of pique, volunteered to take in a refugee family from Syria. I don't know if he told his wife before he posted that, but it'll be interesting to see, what happens. But I think most people probably aren't feeling ready to take in a refugee family, but they probably are willing to do other things. And I think that's the vibe you're tapping into, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Well, Coby, I want to give you just one quick opportunity to tell us about some of the other things that you're involved with. You said you're involved with some other nonprofits. What else are you involved with?
Yeah, so I actually work with refugees on a day-to-day basis here in Salt Lake City. So get the opportunity to work with a lot of community nonprofits. Here in Salt Lake City, there's refugee nonprofits for each refugee community that are kind of out there trying to organize themselves as a community and confront some of those issues that they all face. So I'm working with a lot of those different communities and doing consulting and talking about how they can design programs for their youth and women's groups and how they can work on some of the issues that they face, like access to education and poverty.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you working on that. That's great stuff. What about you, Emily? Are you also engaged in other things besides 10 Things For, or is this a full-time thing for you?
No, in addition to a full-time job, I'm also involved with an organization called the Space Adventures Foundation, and their aim is to use futuristic simulators to help students engage with STEM content as well as learn leadership skills. So right now we're in the middle of these long-duration missions, that we call them, and these different squads are competing against each other, and they're evaluated based on practical leadership skills and communication skills you would need in the work environment. And we have coaches that have curriculum that work with these groups to help improve and hopefully make it so that they can take these skills and apply these in real-life situations.
That's great. Hey, I want to ask each of you a couple of personal questions before we wrap up, and just to get some insights from you. Emily, let's start with you, but I think of you as a role model. Who do you think of as your role model?
The earliest role model I can remember is actually my mother. My parents are both musicians who are self-employed, so not a particularly lucrative career. And even though we were not particularly well off growing up, every time there was somebody in need, she was the first person to say, well, what can I do? What can we do? And always offer a helping hand. And even to this day, she's continued that. And that was just a tremendous example to me of, you might not be able to do all the big things, but there's always a little thing that you can find to make a small difference.
Oh, that's great. Great role model, and I appreciate you sharing that. And Coby, what about you? Who's your role model?
I think my role models are probably my grandparents. They came from a pretty tough kind of immigrant background, and so they had to. I mean, their parents were immigrants; they actually weren't, but they had to do a lot to make life work for their family. And I've been inspired a lot by my grandmother, who kind of instilled in me a love for reading and a love for thinking. So she's always sending me books and about different topics around the world, and then she'll follow up with me and say, "Oh, so what did you think about this?" And really kind of challenge me and push me to think about it and to grow my mind and expand my thinking.
I think that's a great example, and a great reminder that we're all here in the United States, all but a tiny number of us are immigrants or descended from immigrants, aren't we? Emily, what about why you care about this stuff? I think about even at the fundamental level of why you chose to subscribe to that newsletter on foreign affairs. Why do you care?
I think one of the biggest reasons, an event that actually influenced me and really helped me become more aware of what was happening in the world and understand why that was important to me, was actually the death of King Hussein of Jordan. My parents had traveled abroad to Jordan several times, and I remember when he passed away, my parents sat us down at the table and they had a conversation about what this meant for the world. The death of this one man who was very influential, what this meant for politics in the region, and more broadly what that meant for us as Americans in terms of foreign policy. And I remember going to bed that night and thinking, wow, these events that are shifting the political landscape are affecting real people. And these are people who could be my friends, could be my neighbors. They're people I can connect with, and people who might themselves be able to make a huge difference someday if given the opportunity. I remember going to school the next day, and I guess I was the only child in elementary school who thought, oh, King Hussein died, everyone, and no one else cared. And I remember being kind of outraged by that a little, and I felt like I needed to be the second-grade activist and say, well, this is why it matters. And the comprehension that dawned on a few of my second-grade friends' faces, realizing these are events that impact real people, and this could just as easily be me tomorrow, has really it lit a fire inside, and has just grown bigger ever since.
I think that's what a powerful story. I appreciate that. What great parents you've got. Now, Coby, what about you? Why do you care?
I mean, I've been blessed to have been a lot of, I lived in Turkey for about 1.5 years, and Jordan for 6 months, and then 2 years in Austria. And through all those experiences, I've had a lot of opportunities to see the stark differences between the opportunities that I've been provided in my life and the opportunities that others have had. And some of those were seeing Palestinian and Iraqi refugees in Jordan and Syrian refugees in Turkey, and along with the refugee issues, but just sort of that difference in opportunity, the education that I had, that I had the ability to travel and to do those other things, and that kind of imbued in me this desire to provide, to do what I could to provide opportunities for others, whether in whatever small way I could. And I think so 10 Things campaign, like that's part of that, providing opportunities for others to make difference. And I'd hope that some people would be inspired to start their own organizations or own initiatives.
No, that's really a great logic, a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, I want to ask both of you one final question, which I want to get from you an impact hack, a tip that we can use to have more impact? Clearly, you are driving impact. We all want to drive more impact. We want to do more good. What's your impact hack for us, Emily?
One thing I would suggest is creating a system of accountability, because I see things all the time. You know, there's a food drive happening here or a clothing drive happening here, and I can make a difference by contributing to those things, but I'm more interested in watching 30 Rock on Netflix at the end of the day. And so one way to overcome that is by publicly saying, hey, this thing is happening, and being the person who's responsible for delivering those things, saying, bring me what you have and I will take care of it. So almost forcing yourself to have to participate, I think, is a really good way to make sure that you stay engaged and stay involved.
I think that's a great principle, that principle of accountability. What about you, Coby?
Yeah, I think that you know, my impact hack would be connecting with other organizations, and I mean that because, you know, there's a lot of great people, a lot of great initiatives that are going on out there. But it seems like a lot of times those causes and those groups and organizations are isolated from each other, and so we don't really reach that collective impact. And so, you know, if organizations that are doing good are networking with other groups and really trying to go out there and see who else is doing what we're doing or doing something similar, that, you know, kind of joint collective impact is going to have a bigger difference.
Terrific. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us today, to share some of your personal thoughts and insights, as well as the great story of the 10 Things For campaign. Before you go, Emily, will you just take a minute and tell people how they can learn more about 10 Things For and engage with you?
Yes, if you go to 10thingscampaign.org, you can sign up for our newsletter there, as well as see other campaigns. You can like us on Facebook. It's Facebook/10thingstodo, TEN, and then on Twitter at 10thingsfor. Those are both numbers. We need to work on standardizing that, I think. Those are the mediums that we traditionally use. So feel free to, if you don't want to, you know, every day look on Facebook. The newsletters are a really great way to just sort of at the end of the month see everything there.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Emily, Coby, I thank you both for taking the time to be on the show today, and we wish you every success with 10 Things For.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
All righty. Let's do some good.